Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. In this video, we're going to show you the cunning behavior of Christian missionaries and what they're actually up to on the Bart Erhman Facebook account. As you know, Dr. Erhman is a New Testament scholar and very legitimate, as he's an expert on the Bible. Now, as you know, Bart Erhman has been making many statements against the Bible and exposing the Bible on textual criticism. Now, Muslims do visit his Facebook page and they get quotations to use against the Christians. And the Christians don't like this. And I'm going to show you in this video a clear example of how Christian missionaries are sitting on Bart Erhman's Facebook account, trying to divert any attention by Muslims coming there and trying to ask Bart Erhman questions. So what they're doing is they're flooding the text to avoid Bart Erhman answering the Muslim questions on the Bible. And I'm going to show you a clear example of that. Bart Erhman just recently produced evidence to show, well, he's already spoken about this before, but he's repeating his argument, in regards to the biblical passage in the Bible, which speaks about how a woman was brought to Jesus who committed adultery, and Jesus turned that woman away. He didn't punish her by stoning, right? Bart Erhman showed us an example that this particular passage is not authentic because it doesn't exist in the most ancient manuscripts. And I basically asked Bart Erhman a question, and I said to him, look, and you can watch my video on this. I've done a video and I'll put a link below this. I asked him a question: if this verse is unauthentic, does this mean that Christians need to go back to the old law by punishing and stoning people? Now, Bart Erhman actually answered me in the text, as you can see, but he didn't understand my response. He basically thought I was asking his personal opinion on it from a humanistic point of view, but that wasn't my question. My question was in regards to, would Christians themselves need to go back to those teachings because they don't have an authentic verse to disprove the regulations in stoning people for adultery? Now, if you notice in the text, a Christian missionary called Patti Floyd didn't like this question, right? So she says, ha, 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 and she puts an angry face. Do you see the angry face in red? So she got pretty annoyed at this. And pay attention to the text because everything is in the comment section. So as you see, Bart Erhman does still reply to me, but he doesn't understand the question properly, or he didn't get my question. So as you can see, Patti has already come to this. It's come to her attention, right? So I re-asked my question back to Bart Erhman, and as you can see in the text, I said, for example, I said to Bart Erhman that his personal views are based on agnosticism. He's an agnostic now. Obviously, he's going to reject stoning women. And I said, perhaps I didn't explain myself properly. I said to him, when I asked you your position and thoughts, it was in reference to, would it now be hypocritical for Christians to base the removal of the stoning legislation of women based on a verse that is perhaps not authentic? So I'm asking Erhman, would it be hypocritical for Christians and not basically his own opinion from his standpoint, but from the standpoint of Christians, for rejecting stoning women, since the verse that they rely upon is not actually authentic. And notice, look, Patti Floyd wrote at 4:00. Well, her first comment was at 1:35 a.m. She didn't like this, right? And then it seems like she invited another person called Stan Venesco, right? And he says, dumb Muslim trolls are trolling Bart Erhman's text, and he's also calling us primitive animals. So it looks like Patti already ganged up by inviting Stan to the show. This is about a few hours later, she invited Stan to the show. And here, Patti actually tries to refute me. She says Christians aren't under the law. They are under the grace. So then Patti already tried to distract the attention away from Erhman. So now she wants to have an engagement with me. So I said to her, sorry, Patti, but the Christians are under the law. That's why they follow the Ten Commandments. And that's why they follow the law in the New Testament that forbids homosexuality. And that's why Christians don't like homosexuals, or they don't like to engage in homosexuality, because their morality comes from the laws in the Bible. So Patti Rose was trying to deflect the attention away from Erhman. She tried to deflect the attention and try to refute her claim to say that Christians don't have to follow the stoning premise, stoning women for adultery, because they're under the grace, they're not under the law. So she's trying to deflect the question away from Erhman by trying to refute it herself. And then she says there's more than that. Once I refuted her, she basically said there's more than that. And I said to Patti Floyd, and look what I said, what really angered her. I said, I don't want your personal opinion. I'm interested in Erhman's opinion on the matter, because obviously he's a New Testament scholar. Now, if you excuse us, and this really upsetted Patti. Look how upsetted her that I did not to engage with her and want her opinion. I wanted the opinion of Erhman. She writes to me, she says, let me tell you something right now. When you made a comment about stoning women, as well as using the term death penalty for adultery on public forum, you invited me and every other woman into your conversation. Your question is just a way for you to take a jab at Christians. In fact, that seems to be an ongoing theme for this page. Oh, look, she understands that this is, troubling her, because Muslims are coming to Erhman's Facebook page and trying to have a stab at Christians. She goes on to say, questions with the motivation to score points for the Quran in order to perpetrate your religious fanaticism. I'm not going to sit here and placate you, and I'm not going to be quiet about it either. So you get your little question answered, run to your friends with it, and then congratulate yourselves for confirming your own biases. By the way, I notice you didn't say a word to Stan, who directly insulted you. So, yes, as you can see, she's clearly upset at the fact that Muslims are coming to the page, getting eyewitness testimonies from Bart Erhman to use against the Christians, right? And my response back to Patti was, where did I even invite you? My question was specific for Erhman. I asked Dr. Erhman what his thoughts were. I didn't ask what your Christian thoughts were. What part of that did you miss? It seems you are bothered by allowing Erhman to give his answers. Bothered by the fact that his opinion on the matter counts more than yours. And look what Patti says back. She writes back, she says, I absolutely value his opinion in regards to Erhman. And I said to Patti, well, if you value them, let's wait and hear his reply. Now notice, Patti doesn't write back. She doesn't write back because her last post was at 2:26 p.m. as you can see in the screen. She doesn't write back. Nearly 1.5 hours later, after being refuted and exposed, she actually sends about 2 or 3 Christians to the page. Look, about 1.5 hours later, she sends John K. Winford, who writes, Muslims are trolling the posts. Muslims are primitive animals. And as you can see, right? And Muslims are taking things out of context. he says, John K.F. Winford writes, these idiots think everyone is stupid enough to live these books literally like these primitive animals do. So he's actually defending the Christians. He's saying that Christians don't interpret their book literally, right? They don't interpret it. So already Christians are now coming to flood the page. It's like Patti Floyd clearly instigated this. And I wrote back to John K. Winford, I said the Bible is very literal. In Leviticus 20:10, it gives a death penalty for adulteresses. And even in the New Testament, in Revelations 21:8, Jesus actually will burn people who commit adultery. It says, but the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, these are people who commit adultery, will be sent to the lake of fire. Now look, now comes Stan Vesco onto the stage. Can you see in the comment? Vesco comes. So she sent three people, John K. Winford, she sent Stan Vesco, and she also sent Joe Wheeler. These are three distinct Christian missionaries to the page. And they completely flooded the text. They're calling Islam filthy. It's like an animalistic religion. Here you can see in the text, he's flooding the text. He says, you talk like an animal. Then John K. Whitford comes back to the page. He says, what kind of moron even asked people to be stoned? And see, he talks about it requires mental illness. And they're just clearly flooding the text, right? And remember, folks, I asked a question back to Erhman to give us a clarification. So she sent these Christians to clearly flood the text. And look at this. He's talking about, and they're using personal insults now. They're saying, you have a feces for a brain. Why does not one scholar in the whole world use feces filled in the Quran, if anything historical about Jesus? So Stan is acting like an atheist. If you go to their Facebook pages, they act like atheists, right? They're undercover Christian missionaries. But he's asking for me to show him if there's any historical evidence of Jesus. Now, if he was an atheist, why would he actually say such a thing to give him historical evidence about Jesus? Now, if we were to go to his page, he's actually sort of exposing or making fun of creationists. Look, he says, average, retarded Peter, creationists. It's like he's making fun of creationists. So they're like undercover atheist agents who are really Christian. He says that Erhman already gave me an answer, which wasn't an answer. He got my answer wrong, my question wrong. So I asked him another clarification. And as you can see in the text, they're just flooding it. At more than 50 comments. Look, he calls it, you are effing primitive piece of bacon crap. Look at the insults that they're sending. He says, why does not one scholar in the whole world feces filled with Quran for anything historical about Jesus? And look how they're flooding the text. It's all their comments. They're clearly flooding the text and they're annoyed. He says, stupid muzzy trash cannot comprehend what is to be non-violent. Mr. Erhman told you his views. People to grow up. And look, he's bringing up marriages, 9-year-old marriages. Like, it's got nothing to do with the subject. So look, they're bringing up pedophilia. Joe Wheeler writes, hey, quick, beat your wife. I think someone witnessed her driving away. So he's bringing up beating women. He's bringing up all these other claims and diverting the topic away from the stoning that is prescribed against people who commit adultery. So notice they're flooding the text. They're talking about the Quran. Why isn't Jesus being historically mentioned or something like that? He's talking about beating wives. They're talking about pedophilia. So anything to divert the topic away from Bart Erhman giving us a further clarification. Notice Patti Floyd is completely quiet. Remember the first Christian missionary that was here? Patti Floyd, as you can see on the screen, she's quiet. She's long gone. 4 hours ago she went and she sent these Christian missionaries to heckle the Muslims, to divert the question away from Bart Erhman. And notice she hasn't come back. She hasn't come back at all. She's pretty much done her job by diverting the attention. And each time they text, I have to actually delete my comment and repost my comment right at the bottom so Bart Erhman can actually see it, because they're continuously flooding. Delete my question and repost my question. And this is really proof. You can come and have a look what a Christian missionary looks like. For the last 24 hours, Joe and Stan and the others have been flooding the text so that Bart Erhman gets distracted and does not give me a further reply. First, it was Patti, the Christian lady, who was completely annoyed of me asking him such a question to use against the Christians. So then she couldn't handle me and she got exposed, so she sent Stan and Joe to the page. They are clearly in panic mode, clearly in undercover Christian missionary agents mode. So be aware, Muslims, be aware that when you are trying to request an answer from Bart Erhman, the Christians will come and flood the text of the New Testament scholar to avoid getting an answer from him. Unbelievable. Now, here is Bart. You can see I've asked him the question, right? It was just a dialogue, a question between Bart Erhman. Notice how there's, under my comment, Bart Erhman did reply one initial time. There are more than 52 replies. Do you see how they've flooded the text? They flooded the text so Bart Erhman doesn't get interested and come back to the text and view it and give me a reply. Because my further question to Bart Erhman will be lost amongst all of the intentionally flooded questions by the Christian missionaries, attack against Islam. So Bart Erhman wouldn't be interested to go back to it, right? So this is designed by the Christian missionaries to flood the text and divert the topic so my question gets lost. So I have to continuously cut and paste my question right at the bottom to bring the attention back to Bart Erhman. So this is how clever they are. This is what they do on Bart Erhman's posts.